Hey everybody, long overdue video here. This is gonna be a big long dispatch. I was thinking about calling this a variety show. I was thinking about calling it, you know, a big general update. I haven't been making like videos after each time I finish reading something, which used to be how I do things. This is just gonna be more like a variety show, lots of different things. This is a bookmark that I have been using a lot. Love these Powell's Book Chicago ones. They've got a gloss to them, so kind of when you underline things, use them to underline as a straight edge. A lot of times, like ink, you know, if it sits on the gloss, it'll then come off on the book when you put it in the book again. Anyway, let's get into the video. I just closed the book on this one here. $13, $17.95 Canada. Vintage International, kind of pale kind of a greenish gray, very, you know, mostly colorless cover with these red accents, and you have this image that shows the triangle of that the story focuses on. Of all my novels, This Bright Fruit is the Gayest is the first line from the intro. Yeah, this book was really incredible. I had a good copy of it, very flexible, very well done. Clearly an older copy. Spent a lot of time admiring the intro of this book, admiring the first couple of chapters where there are some ingenious scenes by which Martha and Franz become acquainted. And this book was just a cornucopia of delights. It's gay, it's bright, it's extremely clear, it's almost too clear, so that by the time the novel is reaching like later stages and suspense is building and building and building, to an unexpected and very interesting conclusion. By the time suspense is building, you almost can't handle it. Like you really kind of slow down, I think, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is almost too much. It's an overwhelming book. Sometimes it's overwhelmingly hilarious. You get these wonderful scenes. Scene in what was maybe my favorite chapter of the book, chapter 10, where you get all these scenes having to do with the auto mannequins that Dreyer, the husband of Martha, is working on with his artist, his sculptor, and his scientist who look like each other. That is extremely memorable stuff, very Kafka-esque. You can see my copy got a little distressed in the process of reading it, but yeah, I can't really recommend this book highly enough. It was interesting to read because I just read The Defense and Mary, and this one is sandwiched between the two. And it's also a book written when the author was about my age, which is staggering to admit. But it was really, really good, gay and bright, and it had some of the best sex scenes I've ever read, some very accurate depictions of, you know, what it's like to be Franz's age. It's all done with a lot of panache, and I kept thinking that with your typical mastery, and not just panache, but the mastery you come to expect from this guy. But I kept on thinking, that there's probably a lot of the gaiety and a lot of the maybe of the groundedness of the book probably comes from Nabokov's knowledge of Madame Bovary, which is a novel that I read and liked, and kind of have started to forget some of lately. But basically, this idea of doing like a really realistic, kind of tragic, kind of sex-based plot like this. And to allow a lot of the joy of the characters who are illicitly, doing whatever, to come through, and allowing the reality of the situation to really sink in, so that you can experience the joy that the characters feel in their freedom, and then also the terror that they feel as it kind of drives them to maybe like lower depths or weirder plateaus. I had the sense that a lot of that might be stuff that he gets from Madame Bovary, because I know that Nabokov studied Russian and French literature when he was at Cambridge. This is really a good book to read aloud. I kept on underlining throughout. Yeah, basically, the beauty here is just, it's extremely beautiful stuff. Fans of Lolita will be pleased to read this book. Fans of Laughter in the Dark will love this book. I kind of did a video kind of touching on what my experience of reading Laughter in the Dark was. This is not a mirror image of it, I wouldn't say. It's not really like, you know, the white square to the black square of Laughter in the Dark, but it really is, it's a book for fans of that one. And it's extremely funny. And some of the sex scenes are done so swiftly, and yet very thoroughly and clearly that it kind of makes you wonder at what prose can do and how far it can be taken. So yeah, so this is kind of part of a project of reading Nabokov, and of course, I can't recommend it highly enough. And I will be rereading, probably with an eye to taking each chapter and breaking it up, kind of in the manner. I had this idea to kind of go through and I think on a reread, I'll basically do, it doesn't happen in The Innocents Abroad, through like in Blood Meridian, you know, and go to each chapter and figure out what happens and then basically put it in at the top. So I know kind of what little episodes each chapter is constructed of. And I can also test my theory that the novel starts with like the coalescence of an object that is set in motion, and then kind of ends with with all of these little bits of matter dissipating into space, and then that acquiring the kind of stillness and yet expansiveness of a void, and the kind of, you know, rightness of a void, you know, of kind of you know, perfect entropy or whatever. Recently acquired lots of apples. Check them out. Very cool. They start to get kind of softer the older they get. Watch them spin. It will set a whole world in motion. Black clock hand is still at rest, but is on the point of making its once-a-minute gesture. That resilient jolt will set a whole world in motion. Yeah, kind of in the spirit of this being a general update, basically while I was reading this rather slowly, you know, too slowly by Philip Roth's standards, I went ahead and took on Seize the Day, which I liked. I didn't end up reading the introduction by Cynthia Ozick, though. The plot of the book was pretty predictable, but it was also, I thought, a great little plot. And I thought that the character of this Tamkin here, this Tamkin character, I mean, he was really funny. And when I would read out loud from the book, Tamkin was clearly the most enjoyable part for the people I was reading aloud to. And yeah, also the inter kind of personal dynamics in this book. I really loved the way the protagonist isn't perfectly ashamed, you know, still retains some pride and still retains a sense that they can kind of move forward. Some of the paragraphs gave me a real sense of awe. They would start somewhere and then end somewhere else. Maybe they would start more concretely and end more abstractly, or vice versa. It felt like the paragraphs were free and fluid. And I also enjoyed, the only thing I didn't enjoy basically was, I don't know, maybe some of the kind of, I don't know, it's a novella, you know? So, you know, you could ask for more characters or more more scenes, you know, but then you just ask for the book to be longer. I mean, I guess it would kind of make sense for this to maybe be, you know, like a part 2 of like a 3-part novel, where there's like maybe a first part that focuses on like maybe the youth of the character's father, who's a doctor, and then maybe there's another part afterward that focuses on the life of one of the children of this guy, you know, after maybe he finally ceases paying these divorce payments or whatever. Anyway, this was like a long overdue read for me. I bought this book forever and ever ago, back when I was kind of more obsessed with Saul Bellow, and I finally got around to reading it, and I really liked it. I did not, of course, it kind of felt unfair to read this, like, while reading this, because, like, few things can compare favorably to Nabokov, as we well know. Anyway, I'm doing a kind of a poor job of summing up these books, basically because I expect that, like, readers of this channel are probably gonna, like, want to read books. Like, basically, watchers of this channel are the kind of people who are gonna, like, want to read King, Queen, Knave, and Seize the Day and not have them, like, totally spoiled for them. And they're also gonna want me to be maybe frank about how enjoyable they are to read. They're both enjoyable to read, and these are good editions to read them in. Sort of while I was reading that, while I was reading King, Queen, Knave, I also read Black Hole. It's been Halloween. I've been going through a lot of these movies and the Criterion thing. On the Criterion thing, they've had these Universal horror classics and then also this 80s horror thing. I've been going through these, and it's been kind of a you know, a month of watching these, and just quickly, didn't really like, liked, saw a while ago, dug and had problems with it, liked, especially the chase, liked, really liked, this one almost kind of, you know, bucked us off the whole train. The staggering masterpiece, wanna see, I gotta show more here. Loved, have always loved. Anyway, you didn't ask for that summary, but anyway, kind of in keeping with that, you know, I decided to read Black Hole, and I read it yesterday and today. Today being the day I'm uploading this video, hopefully. But yeah, I wanted to read this because I started watching those Cartoonist Kayfabe videos where they go through, and I mean, they're like basically two like master comics artists appreciate the way people, you know, draw like you know, grass and dirt and stuff, and it's amazing. They showed me they did a segment where they highlighted R. Crumb sketchbook, and I looked through that, and it was just so inspiring. And I haven't really been reading or drawing much because I've been like focusing on making more music lately, about which more later, but maybe and then and so it made me want to like read Black Hole, because Black Hole was like one of the comic books that the other books that they were looking at, and I was thinking I would like to, you know, kind of read this first before looking at their video, kind of through the lens of what they were appreciating about those R. Crumb books. And so I was really appreciating like the variety of textures here, and like the consideration of like all the compositions, like the way all of the backgrounds and kitchens are done, and how they all read as kitchens and curtains and what have you. The way you know, I was appreciating it much more. And this was actually my second read of the book, because I read the book once a while back, and I really liked it. I think I was like kind of just like shocked by it, and my heart rate was just gotten up by it. But this time I really appreciated like the romances, and I appreciated the tale of lost innocence and the tale of lost kind of normalcy. Like when a character says, I would give anything to go back to, you know, how things were before. I was kind of reminded of the other books I was reading, you know, the King, Queen, Knave and Seize the Day, you know, both examples of kind of like lost innocence, you know, seen from different vantage points, you know, and these are all kind of like extremely dramatic books to read, and they all involve kind of like reckonings, you know, and departures from places of comfort. And I mean, I mean, this is a really great adventure, and this is on kind of another scale, I want to say. I mean, of course, this Black Hole took 10 years to do, but and this would be on the smallest scale, although it also encompasses a lot of time because there are a lot of flashbacks. But basically, I don't know, these are emotionally involved things to read. So I was appreciating like the emotional component of Black Hole, and then this time also I was finally, after having like maybe drawn a little bit, and after having kind of experienced a more emotional attachment to drawing, really like just tenderly appreciating the care that goes into basically every picture here, from the first end paper, you know, to the last, which if you don't have this book, you know, it's When They're All Monsters. Thematic, really amazing reread. An example of things I want to do more in life and on this channel, which is to reread books and allow myself to love and drink and be nourished by those things that I've identified as being present in that book. Yeah, and maybe another thing to do now that I've read that would be to go to Last Look, right? And give Last Look a reread. I really gave this like a skimming kind of read at first. You know, when you first get like a big, perfect, beautiful work of art like this, like the first thing you do is I feel like I kind of tear through it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe everything that's here. You know, like I've lucked out, you know, like, you kind of, you know, it's overwhelming, and then you need to allow time and come back so that you can look at the little bits and, you know, just see poetry in the way, you know, planks cross and stuff like that. And the way, you know, panels are deformed or subdivided, you know. Yeah, speaking of subdivisions, a lot of people doing real estate businesses and subdividing things in this book, which I've been reading section by section at a kind of in a book club, con mi madre. Last but not least, like in the spirit of a variety show, I wanted to highlight a couple of things. Number one is a book, like a folklore-related book that I recently acquired, a folklore, and have been reading from, a folklore book that's just from my collection that's somewhat less recently acquired that I just want to highlight, like a poem book that I want to highlight, and then maybe some other recent things. Biggest news. I was at Half Price Books recently, and I saw this in the nice books section, both of these volumes on clearance. And I've been wanting to read the Book of the Thousand Nights and a Night for a while because I've been reading the Native American tales, Russian tales in the Pantheon, you know, library, and also reading, in addition to that, other tales elsewhere. What book am I forgetting? I'm forgetting another book. I've been reading a bit of like Kafka, you know, but getting really into folklore and tales, short fiction, you know, and through that trying to understand better how narration works, and maybe like how flash fiction is possible, how I don't know, how a lot of things are possible, how magic is possible in fiction, all that. I'm interested in all that. And part of that was reading Thousand Nights and a Night. And let me give you some context. Well, I'm having trouble finding it now, but the only thing I had before this was like a collection, like kind of an abridgment. And so I finally find like a kind of like a totally unabridged version in what it's said to be like kind of and it's implied that this Burton translation is classic. Forgive me, for I am a noob at Arabian Nights stuff in my as of now. But yeah, I snapped them up, $6 for both volumes, and what you're looking at here is volumes 3 and 4, and then volumes 5 and 6. So this is actually just like the second 2/3 of this edition. This was all that they had. You know, I didn't want to break it up further. Part of me thought, you know, I want to be economical. This takes up a lot of space. I just want to get like one of these, but I ended up getting both of them just because they look really good together. And also they're really great additions, and I've already started reading them. Like I knew that they're so inviting that like I was going to actually start to make some progress here. So that's 5 and 6. This is 3 and 4. I've actually started reading them and started reading around the like 480th night or so. And I've been reading night after night. And out loud, you know, and I've been really enjoying the translation. It's gorgeous. This story in particular is introducing a lot of poetry as it's describing this island where Balukia winds up. It's illustrated in this style where it's got these beautiful line illustrations. It looks like a folded up like kind of story or something. I've been using as a bookmark. And it stays open really nice. Page count, you know, ridiculously high because it's, you know, it's a big text. And the page counts are continuous, so it continues and it's like gets to, you know, page 4,000 or whatever there. Yeah, it's got notes that are kind of hard to identify. I think in the I haven't learned how to notate, how to recognize the notes or where they come in, but they are there, and you can just slap a bookmark in. Look at this beautiful, beautiful bookmark that my friend Alma made. Let's get some kudos in the comments for this beautiful bookmark. Anyway, I've been loving it. I knew I would love it. Sometimes it pays to, and also I feel like I've been getting a lot from the stories themselves so far. I've only really read about like 1.5 stories, but I'm really, really liking the stories, and I'm liking, I'm just really drawn in by the construction of this whole thing, and I can't wait to learn more. I want to showcase maybe some other illustrations. Look at this here. I mean, that's some fire breathing that's going on. Don't want to give too much away. No, you know, don't want to spoil too much in this book that is going to be probably on all y'all's reading lists. This is the front cover. You see, you have this lady and you have this this foliage. I think this book was published in I mean, the covers are nice, but I'm more kind of into the spine. The Heritage Press, New York. We're looking at 1934 here. Yeah, really long contents page. So I just wanted to highlight this as a really cool new acquisition that that's gonna be part of my like reading folklore, you know. So I'm not just only reading, you know, Russian fairy tales into which I've like pressed leaves like a noob. I don't know who does that these days. I do it these days, so very excited about these. Sure I don't lose my place there. Another book I wanted to highlight is this Pissing in the Snow, which is something I got somewhat less recently, but I definitely got it this year. And this is like the most vulgar book I think I own. It's just a bunch of like really occasionally gross and just really lowbrow, but really fascinating and wonderful and beautiful and beautifully collected Ozark folktales. A lot of pecker stuff, a lot of, yeah, just recommend this if you're looking for a laugh and you're into that kind of short story that is known as a folktale. That's the collector there. I mean, he's chuckling. Fitting that he's chuckling in the picture. I mean, these are all just jokes, all of these stories. Yeah, it's really great. One time there was a fool country boy that owned a little bull with some spots on its hind end. The boy says the bull's name is Speckle Ass. The folks thought this was comical, so they all got to calling it Speckle Ass too, when there wasn't no strangers around. Things like that was kind of a neighborhood joke in them days. I think that this kind of matter that goes, that comes after the title, told by so-and-so here on this day, and where they heard the story. I think, you know, I mean, maybe you can think of examples in fiction where people do this, but this needs to be exploited more by fiction writers as a cool form to use for their books, for maybe, you know, for collections of linked stories, for instance, you know. All you MFAers out there, you know, get to writing that. The book off my poetry shelf I want to highlight today is Dictée. I mean, what can I say? It's great. And lastly, I just want to talk about these cool things I found at the library. I've checked this out many times before, really looking forward to reading this. I love A.G. Ivan Brunetti, cartooning. I've seen this book all around. It's really small. I'm gonna finally read it. Dr. Johnson and Mr. Savage is really interesting because I think it's like it was under nonfiction about Samuel Johnson, and it's about his friendship with a murderer. So I thought this would be like a cool mystery story as well as a bit of a literary education. So really excited about that. Found this. This is something of of course I'm a Lispector head, but because I like prose like that. I find it enervating. And apparently there's these things called crónicas that are that Lispector does, and I saw a book in the new books there that was like a giant thick, you know, copy of all of these crónicas, and then I found this selected version in the less new section, which is not going to be which I won't need to return as soon as I would a new book. And then last thing I checked out was this Virgil Thompson book, The State of Music and Other Writings, and I read a Schoenberg essay in here. And basically that's it. That's it, you know. Have a beautiful day today and really enjoy this beautiful day, you know, and just don't be ashamed to just spend a day drinking this day in and enjoy it however you can. Don't be stressed about anything. Don't worry, because the world is beautiful, and you know, and that beauty is for you to for you to have while you're for you to kind of have and hold while you are living, you know. Wow, that was pretty heavy-handed. Nice little squirrel over there.